Got it.
Hello.
I love dogs.
That's Johnny barking. There he is. Johnny, look. Johnny, look.
Hey, Johnny. Johnny.
Johnny.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, look at Johnny.
That's my boy.
Good. Let's meet Shannon and Johnny.
Never find one without the other.
Well, good. Arnie, you're driving. Kevin's sleeping. Is this late for you, Kev, or early?
It's early, not that early. Just I'll sit up later.
You always got so many clothes on. Barry, how come you don't have so many clothes on? You live in England. You got central heating.
No, we haven't got central heating. I've got a wood burner, Dave.
Oh, you're lucky.
I've got about 8 tons of oak and ash logs outside, and the wood burner's running.
Lovely. You send the boys to get the wood?
Exactly. And I've got a dog here now as well. I've got a 4-month puppy. She was whining just now, actually, but I think she's going to be okay, hopefully.
That's all right. We'll mute you.
Yeah. Well, you probably do anyway.
I think everybody's on mute except for me. Apparently, I've got stuff to say.
You usually do.
So I do, actually. Who told you were naked? Adam and Eve covered themselves with fig leaves, and God spoke to them and said, who told you that you were naked? And I've pondered that question because there is only the Garden of Eden. There is only the presence of God and the all-encompassing nature of truth. And it's like, who the hell could have told Adam and Eve they were naked? Like, what entered into their minds to initiate the idea that we need to cover ourselves up, we're naked, when there was no reference for being not naked in the Garden of Eden? So the analogy or the symbology of the Garden of Eden story, it's like, man, it's a place of total need lack. Like, there is no needs in the Garden of Eden. There is need lack, lacking in all need. And it's like prior to that, they wanted for nothing. Adam and Eve wanted for nothing, which is the symbolic nature of walking with God, right? Or the real nature of walking with God. You don't need anything. Oh, look, Barry's got, oh, you got a big dog. That's a 4-month-old puppy. That's going to be a monster. So, did you call him the Great Frog?
She's a bit of ridgeback in her. She's called Maple.
I can see the ridgeback. Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So the idea of transformation, the idea of healing, is an idea of returning our minds to that Garden of Eden state where we have need lack. Right? It's not that we have no needs, we have need lack. Right? A lack of need. It doesn't mean you're without needs. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be beset by the opportunity to believe in needs in the future. But in the here and the now, you have need lack. And there's Paula. Paula? Who's Paula? Do we know a Paula? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Righto. So I'm sustained by the love of God, which is lesson 50 in our, oh, there she is. Lesson 50 in our 20-minute book. I'm sustained by the love of God. That lesson as a declaration, and you have to declare it because you have to hear yourself, tell yourself what it is you're about and what it is that you want, right? And the best way to do that and to hold yourself accountable to it is to have witnesses, is to have those brothers around you, like all of you guys for me, who hold me accountable to practicing what I preach. And it's not always that easy. I mean, the idea of lack shows up, or the idea of want shows up all day, every day in the world, because that's what the symbolic reflection of the world is always going to be, which is why the vision of Christ is always teaching me to look beyond the form, look past the world, past the imagery, and apply the principle of love to that to see what's actually there. And one of those lessons, I think it's lesson 5 in the workbook, where it says, look closely and you'll see a tiny ridge of light around the same familiar objects that you've always seen and always known. And I remember reading a book. Oh my God, it was a fictional book, but based on that sort of thing, the something or other way, the mystic's way or whatever. It was very, very popular when it came out. It was 5 steps, and can't remember it now. But the idea of looking beyond, it's not out there with my body's eyes that I'm looking beyond, even though there's Fran, Tina, you can have your giggles again. It's the idea of looking beyond, right, looking beyond with my body's eyes. The vision of Christ is a perceptual mechanism in the mind. I can't see my brother with my eyes. I recognize my brother initially in my mind by being willing to look beyond the place where need and lack and all of these sorts of things seems to be showing up. And I have to train myself. It's like that idea of mind training is training myself, firstly, to realize when I'm not looking through Christ's vision, when I'm not seeing my brother as whole and perfect, and when I'm buying into the illusion of them as being sick and suffering and all of this sort of stuff, which happens all the time. We're always like, it's the nature of the beast, as they say. But I make an effort. Jesus says in the Course, consistent effort applied in one direction must ultimately allow you to reach the goal. It's only when your mind is divided and you're going this way and trying to go that way at the same time that you end up just going in circles. So who told you you were naked? It's like I really had to sit and look at that. I had to sit and look at that idea. Who the hell did tell me? It's like, where did that tiny mad idea, into eternity, where all is one, crept a tiny mad idea? It's like, where the hell could it have possibly even come from? The impossibility of it. The impossibility of this, the impossibility of a Zoom meeting, the impossibility of day-to-day life. It's like, holy cow, if you really sit and dwell on that, it can actually bake your noodle. You'd be like, where the hell where could it have possibly come from? And of course, the ego loves to dwell on that idea. The ego mind loves to analyze and inspect and look at things. And there's Bernadette. And try to figure it all out. But the whole perspective, the whole crux, and this will take a lot of pressure off for some of you guys that I know you do this the same like I do. Hey, Bernadette. And is that in the resurrection, right? And let's look at the resurrection just as a story, as if it was a fictional story. It wouldn't really matter. In the resurrection, Jesus already accepted atonement for all of humanity. And all you need to do is say yes to it. That's it. Right? In that atonement that he accepted, that he chose to undertake on your behalf, that whole idea of the tiny mad idea was snipped out, was healed, was whoop. In the Course it says it was healed before it even happened. It was healed in the moment that the mind gave rise to it. But in time and space, that looks like 130 billion years, if you believe science, but 130 billion years up until, let's say, the resurrection occurred. Jesus came, prophecy, everything like that. Consciousness was developed and people could begin to talk to each other rather than just sitting around campfires going, And, you know, you have this whole thing goes on. So now when you try to find who told you were naked or that tiny mad idea or anything and try to find your way back to that place, it's not there. It's been snipped out. So it's pointless trying to dwell on how this is happening, why it's happening, and all of that kind of thing, right? So there is a simple acceptance. Well, it seems to be happening. I seem to find it as my reality. And so for the moment that it seems to be my reality, I'm going to treat it as reality, right? Otherwise, I fall into the parameters of using denial really inappropriately, walking around defending myself with the spiritual concept. Oh, it's not real. It doesn't matter. It's not real. It doesn't matter. And I know guys that use the teachings of the Course like that. They'll just fob it off, which is transcendence. That's what Buddhism teaches. Transcendence. You sit for hours and hours in meditation trying to rise above the conscious level and escape the dross of your temporal thoughts, only to come back 4 or 5 hours later and there it all is again. But you feel better about yourself because you had a little holiday from hell. But transformation puts your foot squarely in the shit. It's like, no, it's real. It's fucking real. The opposite of life isn't death. It's another form of life. And unless I'm actually embracing life as it seems to be, then I'm in avoidance of it. I'm in denial of it. I'm trying to protect myself from it. Right? It's like everything that comes to me is part of an incredible orchestration of, oh man, it's just mind-blowing. This is something that I do love to sit and think about. It's like the orchestration of how over billions of years that consciousness has become developed, even within the illusion. And if you wanted to really nut and bolt it down to its simplicity, you could look at it as a computer program. And perhaps there's some alien race that we're all just like dits and dots on a screen to them. But when you begin to wake up and realize it, you look at it and you go, wow, this is incredible. It's like all of this happens for me. Everything here is happening for me. I keep my finger on my own nose. And it's like absolutely everything that goes on throughout the day is offering me something. Not in the form, but the form's there like, you know, like little children and they watch marionette puppets and they will sit there and watch that thing and the wonder on their face and they're totally besotted with it. But as adults, we take everything for granted. But this is still like the puppet show. The whole thing's like the puppet show. But we lose that sense of wonder. But when I remember that all throughout the day, God's calling upon my forgiveness to save me and all of this kind of stuff, it's like everything becomes an incredible gift. Life becomes an incredible gift. And I was watching a movie, a documentary actually yesterday about intuition. And there were several people being interviewed, scholars and researchers and whatever, who are trying to map the brain, the mind, the idea of what intuition might be as a facility within human awareness. And there was this woman, she was an artist in New York City, and people queue up to go and see her and sit in front of her. And she's very intuitive. Some people would say she's empathetic or whatever, but she's very intuitive regarding staying in a place in her own mind that is being presented by the other person sitting in the chair in front of her. So people would queue up at this art gallery in New York. Some people were even sleeping on the footpath the night before. And she would simply sit in a chair for like 4 or 5 hours and they would have like 30 seconds with her. and they would queue up and they would sit in front of her and she would just look into their eyes. And there was people having crying and meltdown, and you could say, well, it's just a placebo effect of the expectation and the hype of whatever. But when they put this woman on they took her to some university and put a thing on her head to measure her brainwave activity, right? It was off the charts. It was literally off the charts. It was just like lights were flashing that they didn't see in normal people and all sorts of stuff on their screen. When they put somebody else, when they put two people and they put somebody else in front of her, the other person's brainwaves and whatever was just like a normal person. But when they put the other person and put the two of them together, the other person's brainwaves started flashing and firing almost immediately in the same way that hers were. Right? Now, this was often causing a reaction in the person that didn't know what the hell was going on, because they didn't know what the hell was going on. All of a sudden, this stuff starts firing in the mind that you've lost touch with over millions and millions of years, let's say, or hundreds of thousands of years. And it starts to, you start to feel, you start to go through all this whole thing. And then you could see, like, they had video of these people sitting in the chair in front of her, and some of them were trying to suppress their emotions. You could see it, stuff was coming up. They were getting tears and they were trying to wipe it away and not look at her eyes. But the whole thing was that they had to maintain eye contact. It was a kind of a thing. And it was intuition. And one of the things, like in the need lack of the Garden of Eden, of that perfect state, is, and this is something I found this probably about 2 years before my enlightenment. I found myself in a terrible place, right? Drugs and alcohol, trying to use that to cope with my life, and at the same time not wanting my life. I became suicidal and all of that. And I left the rat race of the town that I was in to go and live in the country by myself. And I lived there for 2 years in a little house by myself on a small acreage. There was people around and stuff like that, but generally I was by myself. But I learned of a commune on the other side of the mountain to where I was living, and I went and I spent a 3 or 4 month period there in a teepee, and we made the teepees ourselves. We were just young, you know, in our late 20s and early 30s, and it seemed like a kind of a romantic sort of off the grid thing, and a lot of people are into that these days. But whilst I was there, I set my teepee apart from the teepee circle down in the main paddock, and I wanted to put it up in the bush so I would have total solitude. It was like the most isolated I'd ever been for any length of time from people. I began to automatically tune in to instinct, to intuition. If a bird rustled in the trees, something made me look why the bird was rustling. I became more attuned to the smells when the wind blew. I just naturally picked up on things in nature, right, around me that had become deadened. Like there was a sense of my natural self. There was a sense of my natural connection with the planet that, in an organic sense, in a very real organic sense, gave me a total feeling of being connected. Now, when you live in a big city, you don't have that. You don't get the chance to have it. You're surrounded by concrete and Wi-Fi signals and all this sort of stuff, and the very busy doings of living in a city. But it was the most incredible experience to me, feeling connected with things, even the sound of the water running through the creek, you know, things like that. It was like, there's rocks there, I could tell, and you would just pick up and you would know, and rocks meant something, and everything it was like an ancient history of my primitive self was being reborn or rekindled in me that I was getting in touch with. And of course, I didn't have a great deal of use for it. I was still very much in all parameters a modern man, just trying to escape my modern upbringing, I suppose. But it was an incredible experience. One of the things that happens when just a few months prior to enlightenment, I noticed a very heightened sense within myself of being very intuitive. Jesus talks about things like this in the course in as phenomena, and we got Bill. Phenomena and clairvoyancy and all of these sorts of things, which is a stage that passes. And but there is a tuning in to the very subtle frequencies that we don't get the opportunity to tune into without incredible effort in meditation and incredible effort in pursuing rigorous self-honesty and stuff like that. But in nature, and if you think of it this way, the relationship between father and son, the eternal relationship, is the same thing on earth as between body and planet. The whole ecosystem, the whole environment, the material, organic sense of things on earth is very much a symbiotic relationship that is self-supporting. And when you get out of that flow, when you lose sight of that kind of sense that you have, like country people, like this is a really funny thing in Australia. We're a huge country and we have a lot of farmers and a lot of people that work on the land. And they always tell you that they don't understand city folk. City folk are different to country folk. Country folk live by the way the crow flies, and they get up with the birds and they go to bed with the birds, and nature very much governs a big part of their lives, whether or not they're actually living truly as natural people. I mean, they still have the comforts of a house and tractors and all of these sorts of things that have to be taken into account. But there's a part of their minds that is more open to taking notice of the natural environment around them, because their livelihood depends on it, right? When we live in a city, our livelihood doesn't depend on any of that. We just go down to the shop and we buy what we need, and then we go home and we do whatever we do. And so all of those senses, all of those subtle senses, those intuitive senses and things that are, I would call them precursors to awakening in some sense. But all of those things are sort of put on hold. Hey, Bill, do you want to turn your camera on, brother? Join us in the full participation here. All of those things are kind of put on hold, but it's not that they're lost. They're not lost. If you were to go and live in the bush for a while, you would find that other things would awaken in you. You would take notice of the birds in your gulches and the little bandicoots that come out at a certain time, and you would begin to have this symbiotic kind of thing with what was around you, because you would begin automatically to feel part of it. Right? So as above, so below. I'm one with all things on earth as it is in heaven, or as it is in the formless state. But do I feel that? Am I really tuned into that? The answer is 99% of the time is no. I'm not really tuned into it. My life and livelihood doesn't depend on me being tuned into it. Therefore, those senses that I use, they don't come into play very often. They're kind of dulled down in favor of the routine and the simplicity of being able to just go and buy my shopping at the supermarket. I don't have to hunt and gather and do all of that stuff. But when those senses are awakened, when those intuitive kind of senses are awakened, they're incredibly subtle. And in this movie last night, the one of the women that was talking about it, and women tend to be more perceptive than men because they're more emotionally driven in a general sense. She was talking about how she would do classes with people or whatever it was, some sort of workshops or something with people to try and help them re-nurture and rekindle their intuitive senses. It was a big part of the leading up to awakening for me. I began to pay attention to things that ordinarily wouldn't have been on my spectrum. They wouldn't have showed up. But I began to really step back and enjoy feeling tuned into nature. And you can't rationale being tuned into nature in your own mind. You have to experience it. You can't just sort of say, oh, I can imagine that would be lovely. You have no imagination of it unless you're actually in it, because life and the experience of it is something that you have to experience in the moment, like I have a memory of it, but I'm well aware that I don't have that now. Now I live in a city. I'm on small acreage here, but I don't have that heightened sense of being connected with the nature now. I'm aware that I once had it and that it once came into play because of the situation I found myself in. But there was a lot of subtlety that went on, and the intuitive part of my mind, the intuitive centers in my brain, and another funny thing they were talking about last night was there are neurons in the stomach. I never knew that. This is from a scientific perspective. There are neurons in your stomach, which is why when you get afraid of something, you feel it in your gut. And I never knew that. But I always knew, you know, when you hear a bump in the night, you go, ooh, what was that? And you kind of get this in your gut kind of thing. There's Bill. And but I never knew that. And they said there's hundreds of neurons. And I haven't looked into exactly what comprises a neuron, but it was a very interesting doco. And the intuitive sense of self works hand in hand with the physical sense of self. It's not you have one thing and don't have the other. They're both there when they're both needed. And some people are more tuned into it than others. And I remember about probably 3 months, and this is the best example I have of it, right? About 3 months, maybe more after my awakening, we'd done a meditation at the healing center, and meditations there used to go for about 3 to 4 hours, and there would be a discourse, you know, a satsang or whatever, and then we would do a meditation. It would usually take you from anywhere from 8 o'clock in the morning up until about 1 o'clock. After that, everybody would bug out and get the hell out of there and try and get grounded again, because a meditation of that length kind of like just does things to your head. And I was walking up the beach. So the healing center was across the road from the beach, like what, literally directly across the road. There was a row of houses. You'd walk between the houses, down the sand dunes, and you were on the beach. And then if you turned to the right, there was about a 20-minute walk, and you'd be in the center of town. And quite often a lot of the brothers would go to some of our favorite coffee shops there, and we sit around and we talk about, like, holy shit, that was an intense meditation and da-da-da or whatever. But I was walking up the beach and I had an incredible sense of a heightened sense of things, right? Which is often the case with a deep meditation. You come out and you feel completely connected, because that's the whole point of practicing meditation, is to go into an area in your mind that in the conscious band you don't generally use, but it's still there. And you attempt to tap into that and hopefully experience light, but you attempt to tap into that as a way of not only relieving or taking time out from consciousness, but as a way of becoming more and more familiar with the nature of true communication, which is seen in light. Right. So I was feeling completely connected. I'm walking up the beach, and I had this overwhelming sense, this intuitive sense that I had to go up into the sand dunes. I felt like I was being directed to go up into the sand dunes. I didn't hear a voice that said, go up into the sand dunes. I just knew I had to go. And the sand dunes, like, I just walked down the sand dune like 300 meters back, and I was on the flat of the beach. And the sand dunes are like 30 feet high, 20 to 30 feet high. and you have to kind of scramble up them, and there's dune grasses and stuff. So I did. Part of me, right, part of my mind said, nah, don't be silly. Why would I go up into the sand dunes? But I listened. I said, no, this is a strong feeling. I've got a strong intuition here, a strong sense of something to go up into the sand dunes. And when I crested the sand dunes, there's all sea grasses that are about, I don't know, a foot high. There was a young girl with a knife cutting her wrists, sitting in the sand dune. And luckily I was able to sit with her, and we had a conversation, and, you know, she's now living a happy life in England, part of a dance troupe or something. But anyway, that's a little aside. But that sense, that intuitive sense that I had to do something. You can call that the guidance of the spirit, but spirit is not separate from me. It's my higher mind. It's or it is my whole mind, but the higher mind is the part that is unsullied by the world. It's still pure. That part of my mind that is still pure is connected to everyone and everything, because life is a whole. Life is this symbiotic, incredible kind of whole. It's on earth, I talk about it as a symbiotic relationship with all things, because it seems to show up in forms that are separate. And so that's how I embrace it. I look at it that way, and it's like, all right, I seem to have a body. I'll use this body and other bodies, and I'm not going to believe that it's my reality. But for whilst it seems to last, I accept it as it is. And I allow myself to undergo, no matter how ridiculous it might seem, I allow myself to undergo whatever is required in the process of coming to know myself better, because the whole mandate of spiritual work is to know thyself and to be true to thyself, be true. And under those auspices, enter into what we're doing now, this whole thing of purification. I need to purify my mind of everything that's not helpful, so that everything that is can serve me. What's not helpful is believing in lack. What's not helpful is believing in poverty, in believing in scarcity, in believing in all sorts of scenarios that reinforce the bodily association in relationship to the world in a way that is false. There is also a way to see my bodily association in connection with the world in a way that is not true, but it's helpful. There's Angela. When God said to Adam and Eve, and we'll go back to that story for a second, who told you that you were naked? Nobody ever told them they were naked, because there was no lack. There was no opposition in the garden. It was a state of perfect need lack. No one could have told them they were naked. They got a sense of it. There must have been a sense of it. Right? Now, that sense, you can interpret that sense incorrectly. Right? But seen rightly, your own sense of things, your own intuitive sense, your own perceptive sense, your own ability to tap into the subtle frequencies of inner direction, which often takes a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of this sort of thing. You can misuse it. You can read it wrongly in the belief that I am the body, and use it to support those beliefs and try to find a way out of those beliefs. Try to find a solution for yourself. There is no solution, and there is no need of a solution, because quite frankly, the whole thing is not true. One of the things that's been happening for me lately, and this is like we get back to miracle impulses that we've often talked about in these Zoom meetings, is the misinterpretation of miracle impulses as being used for things in the body, like sex or social interaction or whatever it is, self-promotion and stuff like that. It's like, wait a minute. Let me simply step back from everything and accept that within me, I have impulses. and let me not give any value to those impulses based on what I think I know. I will simply accept that those impulses are there, and I will fall back into a deferring position of asking within myself, what is this? Why do I feel compelled to want to do something? And your ego's always going to say, go and have sex, right? Or go down to Uncle Dan's and buy a bottle of whiskey or something, right? The ego's always going to offer you something on the physical level. But if you can remember that you're actually in a process of remembering that which you remember not, now you can use that impulse, recognizing where it's coming from, because God is the creator of all things. It must therefore be coming from God, and learning to listen to that impulse without the pollution of the ego, and actually allow it to be translated into something that you can use and understand. Go up into the sand dunes, right? There's a feeling. I get a feeling. What is this I'm feeling? And it's like, go up into the sand dunes. I would have never thought of that. I would have never thought of that. It would not have occurred to me in a million years to go up into those sand dunes and there was that young girl sitting there. Right? Not in a million years. But when you ask, what is this? What am I feeling this? I feel like I've got to do something here. Right? It's the same thing like last week's Zoom, when we travelled to West Australia, where Willem had his awakening over there by the side of the road at Bunbury or whatever it is. All three of us felt it, because our minds are learning to retune. Our minds are learning to tune in again to those subtle frequencies, to that inner direction, to that sense of self that not only wants to feel connected to everyone and everything, but is actually in the process of unburdening itself of all the meaningless crap in its own life so that it can begin to feel it, right? So if you ever do have the opportunity, and this was just incredible for me, like just how it happened so quickly. If you ever do have the opportunity to go and live in a very remote place in the country and leave behind the phones and the electric lights and everything like that, it will only be a matter of a month or two before you start to notice that you begin to tune in to Mother Nature, that whether you make a conscious decision to try and do that or not, it'll just happen. You will notice the birds. You will notice the wind, which direction it's from. You will notice when things are in flower and not in flower. You'll automatically begin to tune in, because your situation in that sense is not separate from what it is that you're about there. Right? You're connected to everyone and everything, including the natural world. The natural world has an incredible gift to offer, that it's not that you won't find it in a city environment, but in a city environment that you've been brought up with, you probably won't be aware of it as much, because everything is so familiar. It's once you step outside of your familiar parameters, once you step outside of your rut, outside of your cycles of how you operate day after day after day, you no longer have that as a kind of a crutch. It's like you're a fish out of water. It's like, holy shit, I'm totally out of my environment. I have no clue how this all works out here in the country, and and you just take the first step. I was awake before the kookaburras this morning, but I noticed the kookaburras. I mean, they laugh at me every morning to wake me up. In my old gum tree out the back. It's a children's song that we have. Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. Merry, merry king of the bush is he. Laugh, kookaburra, laugh. Kookaburra gay, your life must be. We used to sing that all the time as kids. But there's an intuitive sense. In reality, in the eternal realm, you don't need it, because you're not separate. Right? It's impossible to, like it's the Garden of Eden, there is total need lack. But in the world, in this idea of healing, where we seem to be going through this process of relinquishing that which is not required or not needed, this superficial burden of our self-identity, to become more our natural, organic spiritual sense of self, it's totally needed. I mean, there are workshops now for men and for women. I don't know why they split it up into men's and women's, where they take people out into the bush, out into the country, to get in touch with their organic animal self that they have lost touch with by living in a city for so long. You know, that organic animal, it's like it's what you are in this world, and you have to include it in. You can't just sit behind a Course in Miracles book and go, oh, I'm not a body. It's like, well, hang on, I seem to find myself here with a body. I have to include it all in, because otherwise I'm separating. I'm saying I'm not a body. I'm separating myself from the idea of what I think I am as a body, or what I used to think I am as a body. And that's not healing. That's denial. In order to be able to heal myself of my false beliefs about my body, I have to first admit to myself that I have those beliefs. In order to heal yourself of being an alcoholic or a drug addict, you first have to be able to admit to your alcoholism or your drug addiction. Until you can admit you're an alcoholic, you can't do a damn thing about it. No, I am a body. I'm a body. God's telling me something else, however. Let me just investigate that. Let me look at that. And as we go further and further into our own undoing, as we reach deeper and deeper into our darkness, into those hidden agendas and things, we begin to uncover these whole parcels of energy where the idea of the support of the bodily identity becomes more and more apparent. It's like, holy shit, I have had a whole lifetime of operating a certain way in relationships based on one belief or one idea I had about myself as a body, as a young man, and that's affected me throughout my whole thing. Right? Now I can let that go. And it just comes up. It's not like I have to do a deep dive into anything and try to find it. It's like when I'm willing, the Holy Spirit will show me. Right? The spirit of love or the spirit of wholeness will show me. It's like, because it'll be in contrast, right? What's not eternal is not real. What's not eternal has no life, because life is eternal. Therefore, everything about this association, this avatar, this body that I once thought was my reality gets held up against God's version of things. And I look at that and then I get to choose again. Which one do I choose? And if I choose for God, then all of a sudden, everything that represented the opposite of that gets exposed. It's like a domino. You know, you push one of those dominoes and then a whole bunch of things starts to fall. And you're like, oh my God, I see how this has been in my life and just sabotaging everything that I've had going on forever. And you laugh. You begin to see how stupid you are. It's like, holy shit. I've built this house of lies about myself, thinking I'm a worthy person or an unworthy person or a good person or a bad person, blah, blah, blah. I was never a person at all. I was never any of that. But you become awake, you become awakened within yourself to your purpose. You become more vigilant for the kingdom of heaven, your own state of inner peace, which is the kingdom of heaven, the heavenly state of mind, as you go along, by realizing everything, firstly, that seems to be in opposition to it. Who told you you were naked? Nobody could have ever told Adam and Eve they were naked. It's impossible. It's like a child that makes up an imaginary friend and then believes in it and formulates a whole bunch of playtime stories around the imaginary friend. And before you know it, the imaginary friend has got such an investment in the subconscious that it begins to manifest out through the fears of losing the imaginary friend or the fears of what the imaginary friend has warned you about all your whole life. You know, that's just one scenario. And you get to the age of being a grown-ass person and you realize that it's like, oh, I'm a fucking mess. I never actually grew up. I never let go of my imaginary friend. And you wonder why you feel uncomfortable in social circles, why you feel like you need to drink or get stoned, or, you know, rather than be able to meet the world on equal terms. One with all things, totally connected and feeling absolutely shit hot about it. It's all part and parcel. The intuitive sense of yourself that you have and that you can develop and will develop is just as important as the experiential sense of self that you have in enlightenment. When you go beyond and when you have a revelation, or when you have something that's actually true happens to you, it's part and parcel of truing up to that. It's like when Jesus says in the Bible, the Spirit is like the wind. No man knows where it comes from and where it goes. You have to remember that. I don't know why I'm here, what I'm here for. If I get stuck behind my Course in Miracles book as a student, that's going to become another identity that I take on for a moment. And I have to be able to be willing to let that go, which is why it says at the end, and now forget this course. For many people, that's a terrifying proposition, because the course is something that's offered a hell of a lot of solace in a lifetime that seems to be particularly beset by sorrow and struggle and suffering. I don't want to let this go. This has been a lifeline for me. Eventually, you have to accept that you don't need the lifeline anymore, that you're okay, you're saved, you're whole, and step out into the experience of what that actually is, even in the world. As above, so below. As above, so below. And it's the so below part where we find ourselves. I find myself on this planet. I'm one with all things in eternity and on earth. Don't I want to feel that? Don't I want to experience that? That sense of connectedness, that sense of oneness. I feel it in my heart. I can't feel it in my head. My head's just this ping pong match of ridiculous nothing. Put the paddles down, put the little white ball down and feel. Get into your heart. Begin to experience that intuitive sense of self that no longer has to fit in the square peg in the square hole. You guys in this room are here because you've gone beyond the need to believe. There's no longer a need to believe. There's something in you that's happening, that's a true happening, and you know it. You know it is. You only got to look back 12 months. It's like, holy shit, how far have I come in 12 months? I'm the master of my own mind now. I'm learning to master the concepts and the principles that are bringing about an ever-increasing awareness of my sense of freedom and liberation and peace and happiness and all of that sort of stuff. And you don't even know how that happens. It just starts to happen because you put yourself in the correct environment to nurture it. You allow yourselves to be taught. You allow yourselves to pick up that book and read it and to digest it and to let it change you. Here's what I think. Here's what Jesus is telling me. Which one am I going to choose? What I think? Holy fuck, it only ever brought me to the place where I met Jesus. What I think is nothing. It's only got me into just trouble after trouble after trouble. But I have to be in the world. I've got to accept that I think I'm this body in order to be able to connect with the energetic load that represents in me so I can heal it. If you cannot feel, you cannot heal. You got to get in there and put yourself in the passenger seat and let life take you. Right? Stop trying to drive. I used to say to Dean all the time, like you're in a canoe in a river. The water knows where it's going. Throw the damn paddle overboard and take the ride, take the journey. Stop trying to pick up the paddle every time you see some rocks in the distance. Just trust the water goes around the rocks. Crumpets have gone cold. My sense of things is an abiding understanding. It's not something I'm studying. It's not something that I really put any effort into. Sometimes I need to be reminded, but don't we all? Sometimes I get caught up in the drama of the world, but don't we all? Without my brother, I would be lost. But my abiding sense of things is an understanding of a journey, an understanding of a process that takes me from darkness to light, that takes me from a place where I struggle to a place where I cease to struggle, to a place where there is need, lack. That's a place that I would love to stay in 24/7. It's a mental state that I would love to stay in all the time. But whilst there is still some work to do, let me accept that my feet are on the earth and do that work. Because nothing could possibly ever be asked of me unless it was for my own healing. No matter what is ever asked of me, it's for my healing, finger on my nose. It doesn't matter how enlightened I think I am or how bloody liberated I think I am. All of that shit doesn't matter. It's great. It's fantastic. Having the memory of God blazing in my mind 24 hours a day is just something that I can't possibly ever explain. But I still have to do the work, like everybody. And for that, my feet need to be on the ground. I need to be in the world. In the world, but not of it, perhaps. But in the world and of it, if I need to be. Sometimes you'll get a little irritation, something that will disturb you a little bit, and then it's gone. And as you become more tuned into your own process, you'll learn more and more not to let those little irritations go, because they snowball into bigger ones, right? Those little irritations tell you, oh, there's an unresolved cycle. Everything here works in cycles. It will come around again. When you're in a conscious process of healing, initially, you may not be in a conscious process of healing. Initially, you may just be looking at stuff, why does this keep happening to me? And you don't know how to deal with it. And every time it comes around, you might get stoned or you might get drunk to deal with it, which only reinforces your own belief that you don't know how to deal with it and makes you feel weaker about the idea of being able to deal with your life on equal terms in your own mind. But when you do have a sense of self, when you do begin to develop an understanding and an abiding affinity with the idea of healing, you become less and less willing to let those little things go, those little irritations go, because you know how much joy and how much reward there is in addressing them, in nipping them in the butt. It's like, holy shit, there's something, there's an opportunity, and you become like an adventurer. Jesus talks about it as, you know, think of yourself as a crusader. In A Course in Miracles, this is the last crusade. The motto of the crusade is listen, learn, and do. But first we need to purify our minds of false belief. I'm not a body and neither are you. But I need to find all those beliefs in me where I think I am a body and get the damn things out of there. I'm not interested in that. I am the spirit. This body is my vessel. It's my utility for my experience here in the physical dimension. And that's the only way I want to see it. I'm here to be useful, here to be helpful and harmless, hopefully. So through the process of purification, I relieve myself. I lay down my burdens. I lay down my false identity. Ironically, by stepping into it totally for a second. Right? Let me look at this. Oh, I do think I'm a body. Just because I got A Course in Miracles that tells me I'm not a body and Jesus is giving me the lofty perception of the world through Christ's vision, that doesn't mean that's where I'm at. He's just setting me a target. He's like, here, this is where you got to get to, and this is the means that by which it's going to happen. Forgive, 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 forgive. You can't forgive something if you're not in touch with, you know, with that within yourself. What, are you going to forgive it in your head? You really trust your own thinking? Jesus says you've been a liar from the beginning and the son of a liar. Like, holy shit, I'm the son of a liar and I'm a liar. And his daddy before him was probably a liar. Every word that proceeds from the mouth of man is a lie. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. So we go through this rigorous, fucking arduous process of purification. It's not fun. Nobody likes to look in the mirror and be humbled within themselves. That humbling of pride, that whole process, man, it's a bitch. It's just like one thing after another, after another. And when you start on it in earnest, it's like those dominoes, boom, boom, boom. When the hell is this going to stop? I'm tired of doing this work on myself. Right? That's just the ego having a whinge. Don't listen to that voice. You're learning through the mind training that your thoughts don't mean anything, including your thoughts about how arduous mind training is. You just keep going and you find yourself experiencing moments of clarity, moments of, what would you call it? Moments of tuning in, moments of heightened awareness, moments of a sense of self, a sense of connectedness. And you feel it. You begin to feel it all around you. It's like a subtle frequency, a subtle energy. And it's like you breathe it in and you breathe it out. It's like God is with you on earth. Walks with you everywhere. God is the power of your mind, the higher power of your mind. And you got to learn to, or relearn, to live and to act from it. God's not separate. God's not somebody up there waiting for you to ascend one day and, oh, welcome home. God is the power of your mind. If you don't begin to operate from the power of your mind now, when are you going to? Am I going to sit here and pretend I don't know? Am I going to sit here and just pretend that I'm some kind of dunce? We've all had the dunce hat on. We had a whole Zoom meeting about the dunce hat. But no, I'm spirit. I am the spirit. But I seem to find myself out of my natural environment in the journey of the soul in the third dimension, which is really, really tenacious in its efforts to convince me that I am what I am not. So I look at my affiliations with it. I look at my beliefs with it. It's like, oh, I do think my body in this situation, in that situation. And it'll play out in a way that you can recognize it. in a business meeting, in a sexual relationship, in any kind of relationship. There will always be the temptation to perceive yourself as the body and as subject to the dictates of the body, better or worse, victim or perpetrator, all of these sorts of things. Go into that. Make the most of it. These things are opportunities. Let yourself feel like a victim. It's like, holy shit, I feel like a victim. All right, let me feel like a victim totally. Let me see how big this iceberg is beneath the surface. It's not about being the victim. It's about a false association. Let me see how much this has affected everything in my life, because I've been carrying this mentality of being a victim with me, and it's been playing out in the running program of my consciousness throughout everything. All of a sudden you get prompted with it, or you get triggered with it, and it shows up in an immediate situation, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't been there in the background, polluting everything throughout your life, forming defenses against being a victim. It's very easy to find yourself in a new environment and feel like you got to protect yourself against the imagined evils and threats that it might contain. I'm going on a holiday to Australia and everything there wants to kill me. Right. Australia has snakes and whatever the hell else we have. Scorpions. I found scorpions out the back of my thing. You know, it's like the intuitive sense of self is, I'll be fine. I've been asked to do this thing. I'll be fine. But I have to accept firstly my fears. Yes, there is snakes. Yes, everything does want to kill me, but I'll still be fine. It's a leap of faith I take in everything, in every situation.
Dave, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
You touched on those sort of moments of intuition, revelation, whatever, yeah? And, you know, they happen for me at times, sometimes a lot, sometimes less. And it always seems to me like there's always an aftermath of it. Like I need them because they kind of remind me that there is that, they're a little opening into the, yes, damn
Good.
it, you know, I'm close. And then as well afterwards, there's like this sort of ego thing where you know, you try to grab hold of it, or you try to remember it, or you try to repeat it, or something, you know. And
Right.
then there's a little trap going on there, and I kind of I get into that trap.
You know where
And
your trap is? You want to know where the trap is in your thinking there?
Hmm.
In thinking that you're close.
Hmm.
All right. You just said to me, I feel these things and I feel like I'm close or I'm getting there or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? In the moment you're feeling those things and experiencing those things, that's where you're at. You're not close, you're there.
Hmm.
But rather than accept that you're there and allow yourself to accept the totality of experiencing what you're experiencing, you're imagining that there's something else to be experienced in that moment. And so you're not really accepting that moment as it is. You're not putting your foot on the ladder. And I know you've only got one foot, but you're not putting your foot on the ladder and therefore cannot take another step up to the next rung on Jacob's ladder. Right?
Yeah.
You're not close. You are there. In the moment you're experiencing something that's intuitively or has that sense of guidance or sense of something, you know, it's like, you know it. It's not the ego. Like you said, you recognize when your ego voice kicks in.
Yeah.
Stop listening to it.
Yeah.
Simply stop listening to it when it kicks in. Refuse to listen to it.
Mm.
And turn your mind back to that subtle sense of things, that intuitive sense. Right, no, I'm not going to listen to my own thoughts because they don't mean anything. Lesson 10.
Yeah.
Right? Thoughts do not mean anything, including the thoughts about your spiritual self, your spiritual progress, including those thoughts.
Yeah.
What's being presented. And if you weren't having those intuitive moments, I'd be concerned because you should be by now. Right?
Yeah.
especially having lost a leg and gone through cancer and everything else like that. You've got more push going on than most people, right?
Yeah.
Motivation for wanting to learn this course is heightened by the condition of your avatar.
Yeah.
It was the same for me when I had cancer. It was like, man, it pushed the hell out of me to find an alternative. It pushed the hell out of me to discover God. It pushed the hell out of me to bloody, it's like, fuck this. It became my priority.
Yeah.
I couldn't avoid it anymore, right?
Yeah.
That stuff happens to you. Simply be still. Take a few breaths. Ground yourself. What is this? Ask yourself, what is this? And allow the answer to come to you. You have to refuse, Barry, to listen to that voice that offers you solutions and offers you possibilities. It doesn't know jack shit. It's like when I was walking along the beach and there was that girl in this, I couldn't see her. I didn't know she was there. I just had this thing. What is this I'm feeling? And there was this overwhelming sense of guidance that I had to go up into the sand dunes, and I didn't know why, and I just did it. And there she was. Right? You're no different from me. We're on the same journey here. You're awakening to the full potential, the full sense of yourself within this world as being one connected to all things, as above, so below.
Yeah.
Don't judge yourself for where you think you are at in that process. All right. Simply accept where you find yourself and know that there's always going to be more. There's always going to be tomorrow. There's always going to be God. It's like God's in charge, Barry. Right?
Yeah.
He's got this. All you got to do is say yes to it. So when you get these impulses, right? Refuse to listen to the ego that says, I need sex, or I need a drink, or I need to go to the gym, or I need to do whatever. It's like, no, hang on a minute. That's all I've ever done is react to my impulses as if there's some kind of fulfillment needed, you know, through the body, whatever. Let me step back for it.
Yeah.
Right? Spiritual awakening is not about getting from A to Z. It's about now. It's about this moment. Right? God is always calling me to awaken. I'm walking down the street, I get a feeling, I get a sense of something. My mind's going to tell me what that sense is and what that sense is for. I'm not going to listen to that anymore because God's calling me home. I'm going to be still and I'm going to allow whatever that is in his service to unfold automatically without me interfering. Okay? Incrementally, momentarily, this happens. And then tomorrow that happens. And then the next day that happens. I'm learning to tune into the happening. I'm learning to tune into that guidance, to that inner sense of things that is beyond my immediate idea of what I think I am as this body in a process of transformation.
Yeah.
I'm not a body. I'm not in a process of transformation at all. What could there possibly be in God's kingdom that needs healing if God is perfect and creates perfect in its own likeness?
Yeah.
Right? My forgiveness is for me.
Well, that was yesterday's Course in Miracles that I shared with Angela. Was just mind blowing on that one. That's exactly what it was. How quietly do all things fall in place.
Exactly.
This is the day that's been chosen.
Right. All you need to do, and I can say this, but everyone's going to hear it wherever they're at. But all you need to do is put your full focus on the kingdom. Right? Now, in this world, full focus transfers to full participation. Because it's in the doing. It's literally in the doing that the witnesses to your salvation come forth, that you are able to see what it is that the fruits of your efforts bring to you. which is why you've got to get out from behind the book. You've got to get out of those comfort zones. You've got to get out of those circles of repetitive behavior again and again, same thing, right? Not in a way where you just, I mean, maybe in a way where you just say, fuck it and walk out the front door, but in a way where it's like, all right, show me, Lord. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? Who would you have me talk to? What would you have me say? There's a kind of a total dependency on God, right? God being the power of my mind in a higher sense of things that includes the greater good as its motivating impetus, rather than my own sense of personal good. When I serve the greater good and only the greater good, that cannot not include my own sense of personal good, because I'm part of the whole. But I have to feel it. I have to allow myself to accept the fact that, hang on a minute, in the world, this is my journey happening to me right now. This is my experience right now. Where my feet are, this is where I serve God right now.
Yeah. I kind of get that. I've totally given
It's
myself.
not about
that.
tomorrow. Right. It's not about tomorrow, Barry. It's not about I'm almost
No.
there. I had something.
Yeah.
You know, I'm nearly there. No, you're there now. I am with my Father now. I'm learning to listen.
Yeah.
That I hear his voice. The opportunities to learn to listen are going to be tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. But I only need to hear his voice once.
Yeah.
You know, the very first time that I heard God's voice was after the dark night of my soul. It was the next morning. I don't know how I got in my bed. I don't know where that knife that I was going to slash my wrists with went to. I turned my house upside down to find it in days following and couldn't find it. It's like it vanished. I don't know how I got to my bed. And when I opened my eyes the next morning, I heard this voice. And it was booming from the sky, from my window panes, the glass, out of my cupboard, from under my bed, from within every cell and fibre of my being. And it said, go to Byron Bay. Not a very godly thing to say. You would think that if God was going to speak to you, that it would be like, here is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased. But it's like, no, go to Byron Bay. It was a simple instruction, and I did it. It took me 3 days, but I did it. I fucked it up the first 2 days. I put my own impressions on what going to Byron Bay I thought should look like, and I went and picked up my friends for the trip so I would have company and friends go with me to Byron Bay. That's not what I was told. Go to Byron Bay. Physically, I've heard God's voice as an audible thing no more than a dozen times in my life, not even, probably 8 times, something like that. Right? But intuitively, I have felt the direction of the Spirit push me and move me and guide me countless times. Lost track of how many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that occurs through my willingness to be used. I'm willing to be used, Father. Use me all day, every day. I don't give a damn. If I've got something going on, just put that on hold and do whatever you need to do. Thy will, not my will. And then your will becomes the will of God. You're not separate from it. God being the greater good on earth. It's kind of foolhardy to dismiss anything. Jesus says in the Course, do not judge against anyone or anything for any reason. Right? It's the same as including everything in. You have to include everything in. And if you begin to have phenomena, right? So this is a funny thing. if you begin to have phenomena go on in your life and you don't have any comprehensive kind of grounding in the nature of the idea that phenomena is possible, when it begins to happen to you, you're going to think you're seeing things. You're going to think you're going crazy. You're going to try and fix it. You're going to go to a psychiatrist and you go, things are appearing and disappearing, and I'm hearing voices, and, you know, I know things that haven't happened yet that seem to always happen, the way I know them. And you're going to think something's happened to your regular 24/7 work-a-day kind of brain. But you're literally living in the awakening. You're living in the resurrection. It didn't happen 2,000 years ago. In a linear sense, it did. But the awareness of the idea that one man escaped death and rose up to heaven, whether you think that's preposterous or whether you think that's possible, it doesn't matter. It's there in your mind. It's like a little cancer. It's like a little doubt. Did that happen? Could that have happened? What the hell? What the hell? It's active in you already. And the gift of that activation is forgiveness. Prior to that, in your thought system, you didn't have forgiveness. Prior to that, there was only an eye for an eye. There was no way out of your situation. I'm going to forgive myself for the world I think I made in its entirety and let it go. I'm not telling you that's not going to be scary. Of course it is. It's all you've ever known as far as you're aware of. But that's not the truth. But we meet the day where we find ourselves with our feet on the ground doing the work we've got to do, and we try again. That moment you walked out of that jewelry store, Barry, with that ring on your finger, you had a moment there. You had a perceptive moment of how beautiful and wonderful and amazing life could be. You felt connected because you did something for yourself that was representative of doing something for the whole. Your healing is the healing of your world. You cannot not get the results of it. You cannot not feel it also. Whether you do that in complete anonymity or whether you're thrust into the limelight or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not a matter of ego. It's a matter of being useful. Most of us are just useful in our own backyard.
Yeah.
How many saviors of God are needed to save the world? One. Where is that one? Right where I find myself. It's an incredible lesson, Barry. It's an incredible gift, an incredible offering that you put on the table.
It is. And, and
The realization.
Somewhere in the course there, it says something along the lines of, this has been done for you. It was done by
Right.
Jesus. It was done. And that's those kind of little moments of, they're like remembrance, aren't they? It's more like a remembering for me every time. Those intuitive moments, those revelations, they're always remembering. It's strange.
Right,
It's remembering. It's
I'm going
remembering.
to give you another assignment. You ready?
Well, I don't know if I'm ready.
Well, you don't have to be ready. Are you willing? Put it that way.
Oh, well, you know me. I think you know me.
Good. Here's your assignment. You're going to go to London and you're going to go to the very same shop, the Great Frog jewelry store where you bought that ring. And you're going to put the ring on the counter and say thank you and walk out without it.
Yeah, I
Because
get that. Yeah.
it's not about the ring.
No, no. Yeah, I get that.
Right. Now, you exactly. Bill's there cutting through the shit, cutting the ties.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, ready, Barry? What you just said then? No, I get it. Right. Who gets it?
Okay.
The getting of it is in the doing. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same as when you bought the ring. It's in the doing.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
At a certain point, the attachment to having learnt the lesson and the attachment to what the lesson represents to you, which is symbolized through that ring, you got to let that go as well and accept that you've learnt that lesson.
Oh.
Right? In this case, for the benefit of everybody in this Zoom meeting who is going to be your witness, right?
Mm.
You're doing it for their healing as well as your own. Because the joy you experience in doing, yeah, exactly. The joy you experience in doing that is a joy that is unified. It's a joy that everybody is one with, because we are all one. It's a joy of healing, a joy of remembering. It's having that moment. And I guarantee you, when you walk out the door of that shop into the daylight, something is going to happen to you. Don't try to decide what you think that something is. What's going on, Paula? You've done your hair and put your face on. You always look like you've fallen down the flight of stairs when you first joined our Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I know very well.
You come in looking like the world's been all on your back, and then all of a sudden something happens and your hair gets done. I didn't even notice you doing your hair. It's just a miracle. Look, got a red shirt on.
How are you, Dave? I'm
Who's
feeling.
Dave?
I'm like,
Dave's not here, man. Good. Anna? What's happening, Anna? Anna? Are you moving?
I am moving next year.
Good.
I'll put my house on the market in March. And it's cool because I do see myself moving to the country, and I see a barn on my property,
Nice.
and I see a sign that says Miracle Sit, where we all
Wow.
come to sit in miracles. So yeah.
Wow. That's nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Tina's going to come and live there with you in that place.
I would love that.
She would too. She probably doesn't know it yet, but she would. Francois, the Christ, my brother. Everybody good? Angela, where do you live in relationship to Barry? I know England's only like 10 miles across or something. It's tiny.
3 hours, maybe a bit longer. 3 hours, 4 hours.
Is that one side of London to the other? I'm just thinking to hook you guys up in London for a coffee. That's all.
I'm sort of towards the top, the sort of this end, south end of sort of Scotland, and Barry's down at the other end.
We're about as far apart as you can get in England.
Yeah.
But
That's
Angela
not-
gets to London quicker than I do, even though it seems like, because she does go there every now and again.
I drove from one side of your country to the other side in 4 hours, Barry. It's like it's not very far at all.
Yeah, but north to south's a bit further.
Okay.
But yeah, Angela's up near like Hadrian's Wall and stuff, you know, and you know where
Oh.
I am. You know where I am, Dave, because you come from this neck of the woods, right? So it's a few hours on the train from
Hey,
here to
Sonny.
London.
I'm sure Angela will have no trouble in meeting you in London for coffee.
Well, we could
I was
try and
just
do
there
that.
last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone got any questions? I want to do some reading. I brought my book today. Anyone got a question about anything? Like the whole Zoom meeting here, I mean, it's no different from anything else. It's finger on the nose material. So your question is my question. Your healing is my healing. No. We don't even need any more Zoom meetings then. That's great. So look, I've got a brand new sparkly book. I just took it out. Shiny. Ooh, there you go. Look at the love of God. 277 I was directed to read this morning. And of course, reality and redemption. And of course, I picked up my my white edition book, which doesn't have any page numbers. And for a second, I had like, what the hell, Jesus? You know, I've only got this book. And then I remembered I have a whole box of sparkly books in the hall. So I had to go and open one. So, and I opened to page 277 as directed. And this was a subtle direction. This was an internal, right? Exactly the same thing that we've been talking about. There's a subtle frequency, this kind of sense of things. And I stopped and I asked, what do you want me to read? And I got page 277. It just came through so clearly. Not verbally, just as a knowing. Right. So page 277 is the second page of the chapter in this book called Reality and Redemption. Fresh air in here. But I'm going to do as instructed. I'm going to read 277 and ignore the first bit. Right? My logical brain, my logical thing says to me, oh, just go and start over here. And you'll get to 277 on the next page, but that whole chapter starts here. It's like, no. I'm following the instruction, I'm doing what I was told, 277. Right? God would reunite you with yourself and did not abandon you in your seeming distress. You are waiting only for him and do not know it. Yet his memory shines in your minds and cannot be obliterated. It is no more past than future, being forever, always. You have but to ask for this memory and you will remember. Yet the memory of God cannot shine in a mind which has made it invisible and wants to keep it so. For the memory of God can dawn only in a mind that wills to remember and that has relinquished the insane desire to control reality. Right? The process of healing that we're going through, this process of relinquishment and reinterpretation of defenses that we're going through, requires that I accept that about myself. It cannot come in a mind that still tries to control reality. If I'm asking for the experience and the memory of God to be returned to me and it's not happening, it's because I'm still trying to control that. I'm still trying to control reality. I still want things on my own terms. I can tell myself in my thinking brain, no, I don't. That's ridiculous. Father, I want you. I want your memory. I passionately and vehemently want to remember my reality. But God's not the liar. I am the liar and the son of a liar. Somewhere within me is still a dark cornerstone. Somewhere in my thinking, I have to dig deeper and look harder and be more honest, radically honest. And the first step of that honesty is accepting, it's like, holy shit, I don't want it. God's offering it to me, but I don't want it. At first, that might be distressing, that realization. Eventually, it's just like, oh, more work to do. But that is the nature of the beast. More work to do. What am I going to work for, my salvation, or am I going to work for the world? I'm always choosing. I'm always choosing. Let me work for my salvation. Let me be still and feel within myself where it is I still want the world. So I like the little story that I always tell you guys. If Jesus knocked on your door right now and said, come on, it's time to go, are you going to want to tell family and friends? Are you going to want to make sure that everybody's okay before you leave? Is there going to be any kind of regret? Is there anything? Or is there just a resounding, unconditional yes, Lord? Easy words to say. I can tell myself, yes, Lord. Do I really mean it? If it's not happening, I don't mean it. God is not withholding the memory of him from me in my own mind. I am. That's why we have 365 lessons, Zoom meetings, and every other supporting mechanism that seems to be being presented these days in the name of salvation, which is helpful. Eventually you get to the point where you just, fuck it, I want it. And you'll fall into that place of surrender, hopefully with a little bit of grace. Quite often not. This is great. You who cannot even control yourselves should hardly aspire to control the universe. You who cannot even control yourselves should hardly aspire to control the universe. But look upon what you have made of it and rejoice that it is not so. Look upon what you have made of it. Don't try to ignore it. Don't tell yourself, oh, there is no world, there's nothing to look upon. Don't use a concept to defend yourself. But look upon what you have made of it and rejoice that it is not so. Son of God, be not content with nothing. What is not real cannot be seen and has no value. God could not offer his son what has no value, nor could his son receive it. God could not offer his son what has no value, nor could his son receive it. No one told you that you have no clothes. No one told you you were naked. It never happened. You were redeemed the instant you thought you had deserted him. You know, I love how everything, like you read something here and it totally lines up with whatever it is you're talking about, like for the meeting of the day or whatever seems to be going on in a chit chat with your neighbor or whatever. And it's like, man, it's always perfect. It's always perfect. You were redeemed the instant you thought you had deserted him. Everything you made has never been and is invisible because the Holy Spirit does not see it. Yet what he does see is yours to behold, and through his vision, your perception is healed. Your perception is healed. That's all you need to heal is your perception. Well, what about my perception, Jesus? What about the way I see things? I'm as spiritual as fuck. You mean I spent 30 years studying Osho and Ram Dass and fucking every other kind of ding-dong along the planet and developed this thing and now it's not worth anything? Yep. It's the funniest fucking thing, I tell you. You have made the invisible the only truth that this world holds. Valuing nothing, you have sought nothing and found nothing. By making nothing real to you, you have seen it, but it is not there. And Christ is invisible to you because of what you have made visible to yourselves. It's total imagination. Yet it does not matter how much distance you have tried to interpose between your awareness and truth. God's Son can be seen because his vision is shared. The Holy Spirit looks upon him and sees nothing else in you. What is invisible to you is perfect in his sight and encompasses all of it. He has remembered you because he forgot not the Father. You looked upon the unreal and found despair. Yet by seeking the unreal, what else could you find? The unreal world is a thing of despair, for it can never be. And you who share God's being with him could never be content without reality. What God did not give you has no power over you, and the attraction of love for love remains irresistible, Barry. For it is the function of love to unite all things unto itself and to hold all things together by extending its wholeness. Nothing I see means anything. It's not a journey of progress, it's a journey of remembering. Nothing I see means anything. I'm remembering the here and the now. I'm remembering the I am. My presence of life. I'm remembering that I'm one with all things, that I'm totally connected. And the more crap I clear away that speaks for something else, the more crap I'm willing to let go of and just lay it down, the more that sense of a connected self becomes my reality. The more it begins to re-emerge as my just state of being, as who I am and what I am and how it is that I am in the world. It happens naturally. When fear is released, love automatically flows back in. I don't have to force anything. I'm here in service. Yes. I am my brother's keeper. Yes. I am willing to enter into relationships that are going to push every button I've got. Yes. Whether that's in a Zoom meeting or whether that's in my own personal life on the side. Yes. I'm willing to say yes. Yes, wow, and thank you. It's the only 3 words you need. Yes, wow, and thank you. If you can't meet any request, any situation with either of those 3 words, then you need a 4th word, help. That's it. Finger on the nose. Good, Paula. So again, this week, I'll give you, Barry's got his homework. Paula's got her homework. She's going to go unshopping with Barry. That's what we're going to title this mission. It'll be entered into the record as officially as unshopping with Barry. Or with Barry and Paula. With Angela, sorry. Paula. Unshopping with Barry and Paula and Angela. Maybe Paula's meant to go along too. I don't know. And we'll see what happens. We won't preempt what's going to happen. We won't try to guess what's going to happen. We'll see what happens in the doing of it. Right? Everything's a leap of faith. It's a saying yes, and then I take a step. Here I am, Lord. Take a step. And then the next thing can show itself.
You know what's really funny is Angela said, I know Dave's going to give you another task, Barry.
Right, there you go. She dogged herself in the saying of it.
You knew that, Angela, didn't you? You said there's going to be another one. It's going to be the undoing. It's the undoing one.
I've got one for Francois as well. He's not ready yet, though. I remember Ted used to give out little assignments every now and again. It's like, and the funny thing is you can look at it and you can say, well, I don't have to do that or whatever it is. You're just making shit up or whatever. But in the recognition that God is the doer, right? What is there that could possibly be asked of you, even in jest, even in the jocularity of a moment of just seemingly random banter? Where is it that I want to exclude God? Ted used to hand out little assignments every now and again when he thought somebody needed a push or someone was on the verge of grasping something and it would be helpful, you know, to get out and do something. And you would always have the blowback of those little assignments. 9 times out of 10, if an assignment was given to somebody, they'd get it wrong. They wouldn't follow it. Like me, when God said go to Byron Bay, I didn't follow the instructions as they were given. I reinterpreted the instructions to suit myself. You know, but to be able to follow the instructions as given, verbatim, and sometimes you look at it and you're like, how the hell am I even going to do that? I don't know how to do that. That's the whole point. Learning to become dependent on God. Tuning into those subtle frequencies, that intuitive sense of self and asking, help me, guide me, use me, all of that sort of stuff. All right, the sun is up and I'm getting a tan on this side of the body, not that side of the body, so I'm going to call it a day here. Joe, we've got a meeting this afternoon. Was that 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock we were doing that?
3.
3. Okay, that's cool. We've got a little project going on here. We've got my truck out there and it's got lasers and music and everything. It's getting signed, written up, and we're going to park it in town and do a whole healing thing. So there's a bunch of us that are getting together to do that. So we've got our first meeting of the bunch of us this afternoon, try and nut and bolt the logistics of it, because we're including in other therapists, other healers from different walks of life that have no clue about A Course in Miracles, perhaps. A psychologist, a child, a counselor, all these people that have world credentials as healers and that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting. And but we're going to have to put our vigilance hat on. But I'm sure it'll be all perfect. Any questions? Anything? Anyone? Fran, what's going on there? Don't tell me nothing.
Story for you.
Yeah. I saw you just then. Like,
I'm not here for your entertainment, Tina.
yes, you are. You are.
No, I have something for you. It's what I
Do
said.
you? Oh, good, good, good.
All right. Okay.
I'm just grateful for all the shit that's coming up. That some of it, I'm just terrified to say yes, but I'm saying yes because what the hell else is there that has any value? And it's good, it's good. I'm laughing and crying and cursing like a drunken sailor. That's pretty much my day, all of it. And sitting with my practice and just trying to listen, trying to hear the direction, the guidance. And I've, been given some little, check in on this Zoom, do that lesson, whatever. And the reading you did, the page 277, that smacked me upside the head. And here I am, Lord. Thanks.
It smacked me upside the head as well. It's like when we go down to the pub on a Wednesday night, they have topless barmaid night down there. And if you give any of those girls some cheek, they'll smack you upside down the head as well. It's the same thing. But you enjoy being smacked upside the head by them in the same way I enjoy being smacked upside the head by Jesus. You get used to it. You get this.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly. There's a kind of a familiarity to the touch of the Holy Spirit. It's like bang. And at first it's a really big bang. Often a life-changing bang. But eventually you get and you're like, oh, that's just a little nipple. It's like nothing.
That thing Barry said earlier, I just read it. It's like the Bible. I don't always remember where it is in the course or where I read it, but it's a gift. All this shit that's coming up. It's such a gift.
Yeah.
And when I say yes, Spirit is accomplishing it in me. Not this, crazy old bat dream figure. Oh, yeah.
God is the doer. But remember, you are that. It's just a moment of step into your right mind. There is no crazy old bat.
Every once in a while, I'm kind of fond of her.
It's difficult to want to step into that declaration of the truth of yourself, because there is this kind of latent fondness for the identity, especially in transformation, because you feel like it's an old friend. You've been through so much together. Me and this crazy bat.
Yeah, it's just huge masses of memories have been coming up. With Grace, I'm not very attached to them. Some of them I'm just like watching an old movie that I'm kind of fond of and
Oh.
going, wow, yeah. Not that there aren't tears or laughter or whatever, but no regrets, or I mean there's something that, anyway, I don't know what the fuck it is, but there it is. Yeah.
Good. It's good to put it out and declare yourself, you know, it's good to like get it off your chest that you're going through stuff. Because you have to hear yourself, tell yourself that. Every opportunity that you have to be able to reinforce your purpose is helpful. The world will try to put you down all the time. The world will try to give you reasons why not to declare yourself. Even declare, you know, like we do our declaration classes as I am the Christ, I am one with God, I am perfect and whole as God created me. But in a certain sense, even to declare yourself as a recovering addict, right? You're recovering to something, to a state of full recovery. But because the habituation is to the addiction rather than the recovery, you kind of have to speak that out sometimes. No, I'm recovering.
Yeah, I had Francois posted something this week, and I think it was his garden. I love that. And I realized that when you say like speaking out, sometimes there's something after a insight or whatever comes that there's an opportunity to anchor it. I don't even know in what, but maybe that's the declaration part or whatever. But I thought of that when anyway, probably doesn't make sense. Maybe not even to transform.
No, it does. You don't want this moment to pass you by.
Yeah, it's like the mosaic of the whole. There's another piece. Okay, there's another piece. Yeah.
You know, when I paint a canvas, which isn't very often these days, the whole process of the painting is sitting in front of the canvas with the brush and the paints and working the whole thing. But that's the doing that comes from the stepping back and looking at the canvas. See where the next piece goes. And then there's a greater appreciation of the whole picture that's being developed, that's being produced. Life's exactly the same. You have to step back. You have to allow the moment to permeate and to feel grounded in that moment where you have a breakthrough, and to give yourself that pat on the back in a certain sense. Like, wow, let me just sit here and appreciate this for a minute. You know, all gratitude be to.
Yeah. I had lunch with my oldest granddaughter today, which was an unusual, it was pleasant, it was good. There's things going on, in my talking, we were this and that, and she's 20, she just turned 20. It's like, you know, I didn't know my ass from page 8 then for sure. And she was, I found myself saying to her, she was talking about some people and, you know, the old blame this, that, whatever. She's rather astounding in so many ways too. And I said, you'll find out that the only way to get through life eventually is forgiveness and mercy. And then we're, you know, doing the kind of parental thing of telling, you know, about her, she wants about 1 million different things, her goals. We were talking and about impulse and wanting it to happen right away. And it was funny when I got home and I'm coming up the stairs and something was on my mind, and I thought, finger on your nose, you're sitting there, you told her that she's impulsive and she wants, you know, God to fix it right away. There it was. That's Graham. That was me. You know.
Right.
Yeah. That is
It's
me.
That is it. Exactly. That's your thoughts projected out there, disguised as
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah, I'm really
wanting to
seeing
come
that
home.
more and more. Yeah,
Right.
it's marvelous. Yeah.
When you repent, right? Repent means to turn around. When you repent, when you reach that place in your life where you embrace Christ, where you embrace truth, I won't say Christ because it can appear in any particular way, but when you embrace truth and you want to know the truth of yourself, I like to think of it this way. I've been walking along like a bull in a china shop, ignorant of my situation, projecting out everyone and everything, you know, like onto the universe, projecting out how I want it to be. That's the energy of denial, projecting out. When you repent and you turn around, it has to come back in, because that's the energy of inclusion. That's the energy of unity and of responsibility, finger on my nose, responsibility for the world that I think I made. And of course, I'm going to meet people, situations and events that are going to reflect to me my own ideas.
And it's interesting. Yeah.
In
'Cause it
that
gets more
situation,
subtle.
the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is what? To accept it for himself.
And that was subtle. That was a subtle thing. So
Right.
I can catch it. So even those subtle things that I would have normally brushed off, and the big, ugly, you know, that mother, you know, blah, 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 and that, I get those fast as a projection. But these little more subtle things, now I'm getting back to. So those corners of the mind going deeper and deeper and deeper, because those are blocks. Those are blocks to my remembering and all the love that I am. And I want to shine it out. So
Liar.
I do, damn it.
I don't want to shine. I just want to play it spiritual. I feel like I have a sense of purpose last, but I don't want that sense of purpose to come to an end, because then what am I going to do? No more identity.
Yeah, I don't want to give up a few things I'm still trying to control.
Right, exactly.
But I have my moments, and it's all shifting. I'm learning to really recognize the shifting, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't come. Sometimes it comes right on the heels of something. But I've really been given, you know, saying yes and then doing it no matter what the outcome, that fear I have. There's this other thing, that thing is like, I really got this morning in a meditation around a lesson. Trust. You need, you know, I'm going, help me, Jesus. He says, for God's sake, trust that I am. Just like quit sniveling. It's very unattractive.
Right. You'll do it until you don't.
But it's happening.
Of course it is.
It happened.
We're here together, Fran. It's a guarantee of it happening.
Yeah. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all these faces of myself. That one especially, that was cute, Tina. I just, God, you know.
Have you seen that game? Have you seen that game where you put the person's name on your head and the other, you have to get people to tell you clues and you have to guess who it is?
Oh, there's not with the
Celebrity
name.
Head. I think it's called Celebrity Head. We're going to get one where all the names are just liar. And everybody's going to tell you lies about what it says. I think that would be a real quick route to salvation. It'd be like, no, that's a lie, and that's a lie. Every word coming out of my mouth is a lie. But remember, the truth is within you.
Mm.
It's not a path to the truth. It's a path of the truth. It's a path in the truth. It doesn't take distance and it doesn't take time. I'm either there now or I'm not. I'm either it now or I'm not. I'm either my father's son now or I'm not. I can still be my father's son and have a bunch of other false beliefs about shit that I still have to deal with. But I am that now.
And I can have that moment of tears and truth and still go back to have more shit coming up.
Of course.
And yeah.
You're going to whether you want to or not. Remember, the script is written. This is a journey that's already over. We're just looking back on the doneness of it from a place of doneness. And that's where I always like to come from, a place of doneness. I have the certainty of salvation. I need to worry about nothing. There's nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. God goes with me everywhere I go. It's a done deal. Right? The only caveat to that is Jesus gives me a copy of A Course in Miracles to help me shorten the time that it takes for me to come to recognize that and bring my mind to peace. Otherwise, I could be wandering out there in the wilderness for tens of thousands of years. You know, the doneness of my dream and the certainty of my script in salvation is beyond questioning. I can't avoid that. It's the founding basis for every operation or for every action of mine that I'm going to find myself doing or find myself performing throughout the course of what I call my life. But how often I repeat that, even in salvation, how often I repeat the need to learn a lesson, right? Being fearful of that acceptance of the fact that I don't actually need any lessons. That's what I'm learning. Son of God never needed any lessons at all. The Son of God never needed A Course in Miracles, never needed salvation, because God's creation is perfect and doesn't need healing. When the hell am I going to get it? Now. What is there to get? Nothing. It's kind of crazy. If you try to work it out, you'll just end up losing.
It's fucking crazy. It's
Right.
great. Yeah. But that's okay.
It's paradoxical. You can't work out a paradox. That's why it's called a paradox.
Yeah. That word was going through my head. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can deny the denial, but don't deny you're in the denial. Don't deny you're in denial. And that's where I sit. And that's where the miracle happens. Holy shit, I find myself in a paradox. I need a miracle. Because a paradox is like this wedge. You get right up in there in this pointy little wedge of trying to work it out with your pointy little brain. And it's like, how the fuck? I'm seemingly separate from God, but I'm not separate from God. How do I work this out? Stop trying to work it out. It's going to have to take a miracle. You ever see those news items where the little kid falls in a drain hole and there's like 50 firemen trying to get him out and this whole thing's going on? And, you know, you need the firemen. You can't get out yourself. You literally need a miracle. Luckily, into this equation comes the teacher of God. Right? And we are that for each other. We are all each other's savior, teachers and learners both. Francois, are you good with that? Say no. No. Right, good. Just remember, I'm always the liar. I'm always the liar. God is not preventing me from self-realization, from liberation, from being happy, from any of those things. I am. I'm doing this to myself. That's the secret of salvation. The secret of salvation is I'm doing this to myself. In every circumstance, in every situation in which I find myself that seems to even offer the tiniest little sigh of discontent, I'm doing it to myself. I'm responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that happens to me happens because I've asked, something like that. Now, you try telling that to somebody who's lost a child to a murderer or developed cancer or any of those things. That's another conversation, you know. But yeah, same thing, Tina. Exactly. Finger on my nose. It's not about fixing what seems to be out there. It's about accepting atonement for myself. It's a good thing you recognize that, Fran. You know, it's like that conversation with your granddaughter. It's not about fixing that or offering any kind of old wisdoms. I mean, unless they're actually asking, there's no point in offering anything. I remember Adele was like house mother to everybody at the healing center, and people, especially a lot of the elder women, because she was the oldest, she was the matriarchal figure. A lot of the more older women would go and sit with her on a regular thing. And when people were going through stuff, they would go and sit with her, and outside of hours, you know, when Ted wasn't teaching and whatever was going on. And she would always just sit very patiently and just listen. And she would just listen until whoever was talking got right to the very end of everything they had to say. And she would then say, "Is that it?" And they'd be like, "Yep." And she'd say, "Would you like to see that differently?" And if they said no, that was the end of the conversation. If they say yes, then she would step back and she would ask the Holy Spirit, "What should I say?" She was incredible. She was an incredible woman. She just had a way about her. She was a quintessential old granny. She operated from a lifetime of walking with God, of walking the path and walking her truth, and a true angel. But you have to be uncompromising, you know. You can't let yourself off the hook. We losing someone? Oh, Bill's gone.
Yeah.
Paul. You've got to keep that finger on your nose. As soon as that finger slips off your nose, you're screwed. That's why remembering purpose is so important. Remembering why I'm here with my granddaughter. I'm here to accept atonement for myself. Remembering why I'm here with my yoga instructor, with my Zoom meeting, with my whatever it is. Here I am, Lord. I'm here to represent you. How do I do that? Seemingly, for a moment, through the process of healing, where we share ideas of a higher nature. And we come together for that purpose only. And we refuse to compromise, and we refuse to take our finger off our nose. I'm not separate from this person, situation, or event. This is an idea in my mind. I react only to my thoughts, my own thoughts. This is me talking to me. I don't know how to fix me. I don't even know how to fix myself. I don't know how to offer myself any good advice, let alone anyone else. I'm dependent completely upon the miracle. And then let the miracle sort everything out. And that's often going to be a process of letting go. I've got to let go of all my concerns about my granddaughter, my daughter, my whatever it is. Letting go, letting go, letting go. Constantly letting go. All right. I'm going to let go, leave you guys to get the results of your own thinking. Me the same, as usual. Just remember, keep saying yes. Fran, that's great. Whatever's asked of you, yes, knowing that it is only ever God that asks. Don't be fooled by the disguise that God appears in. Just say yes and trust and take that leap of faith. Right? I'm entitled to miracles no matter what. And it'll bring up all that resistance. It'll bring up everything for healing. Peace.
Can someone stay on with me for a second? I want to see something.
What do you need?
I don't know. Something happened, and I just wanted to check. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
No, I had a message come up, Tina.
Did
AI
something
is
come
on
up?
something.
Yeah,
I got a message too.
yeah. What does it do?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I don't
Something
know.
happened in a Zoom room the other day, and my mind is wanting to find a reason why that happened. Anyway, I just thought maybe. Let me see something real quick. I'll do it to everyone.
It's cool that we all stayed here, right?
Yeah, I just expected like you guys to be gone and like one person. I'm like, oh wait, hold on. Come up. Let me see
No,
what happens.
everyone's good. Kevin
Thank
didn't
you.
say anything much tonight. Kevin, you got anything to say there? Are you comfortable? You look very comfortable.
Oh shoot, I can't. Where's thumbs up? Miss, what's up?
Yeah.
Anna, I'm loving that big barn. I just can't get past that big barn. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I expect to be invited to see it.
Yeah, I
the
was
dream.
prompted to sell my house, so I was told to put it on the market in March. So I know I'm going to the country, and now I keep seeing the barn with the words "miracle sit." So we'll see what happens.
SIT?
Yeah,
S-I-
yeah,
miracles,
miracle sit. Yeah,
as lean to or lay by sit.
yeah, like miracle
Place.
sit. Yeah.
Nothing happened, you guys. But yay. Thanks for staying. And thanks, Anna. I heard you when I was away. I'm gonna come sit with you. It's in Missouri, yeah?
Wherever it's gonna be, I don't know.
Oh God. Yeah.
I'm
If
looking
it's not
forward
Florida,
to it.
I'll
Wherever
be
you
happy.
land, I'm gonna be there. Wherever you land, I'm gonna be there. You and I gotta talk. All right, cool. Francois, you got a second for me? I want to chat with you, brother. Gary, I love you. Angela, I sent you the message how much I loved your message and how helpful it was that night. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love you. Fran, I got a story to tell you. That's what I was saying to you earlier. And Anna, you already heard the story, so you already know.
Yeah.
I'm not keeping secrets, you guys. I'll tell you the story too. I'll tell you right now, real quick.
Yeah,
The
I'll
Oh,
short
yeah.
stay.
version.
Story.
Dave
Well,
was naked. Last week, Dave was naked, girl. Naked. Naked. Last week before the meeting, we like have a little tea, whatever, like kind of get ready for the meeting. And he's like, "Oh, let me go get my tea." So he gets up and he starts walking away. And in the reflection, I'm like, "Is that Dave's butt?" So he walks away. I was like, nah, that must be his shorts, must be the reflection. Anyway, that's him walking away from me. Walking back.
Guy is shameless.
I'm
Totally
like, wait a minute,
shameless.
what's that? Is that his dangly bits? No. So I'm like, brother, are you naked? He's like, oh, you saw me? I was like, yes. But the funny part is he goes into this whole, who said I was naked? You know what I mean? All that, the whole like blah blah blah.
Yeah.
At the end of the meeting, I realized he never like got up and was like, "Oh, let me put my pants on." The whole meeting, he was just like.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our brother.
Somehow
That's
I'm
our
not
brother.
surprised at
Well,
all.
I know. I'm sure it wasn't the
Hey,
first
Tina, you
time.
know what you know what's funny? There was one particular Course in Miracles Facebook group that Dave was part of, and I was part of back along like a year or so ago, and they didn't like him not having a shirt on in there, right? Let alone
I was
being
telling
butt
Anna
naked.
that. Yeah, and we were talking
He just
about that. He was like that he got kicked out of that group for not having a shirt. And I was telling him I have a friend who hates him because he won't wear a shirt. So I was like, I cannot tell her that you don't wear drawers either. Like you just don't wear anything.
Well, it looks
Yeah.
like he has his shirt with all the tattoos. The color.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
he got
like,
kicked
oh,
out
please.
of that too. I'm like, why? But that's man, look at our minds. That's our teacher.
Well, he just provokes one way or the other to look at.
Anyway, that's what I was trying
Check
to
it
say
out.
to Fran. I was like, I can't wait to tell Fran this story. Anyway, I'm glad I got to tell you guys the story too. I checked it actually. He had pants on today. I was gonna put it in the chat like pants
Yeah, who
optional.
knows? We could all be naked under these clothes, right?